Hello everyone, it's Foo here, and we're doing a little bit of a different video today. I think we can all agree that Freeze is one of the most debilitating and powerful statuses in Pokemon. Seeing the icy animation sends a chill down my spine. Today, we'll be looking into what are the highest chances you can get to freeze your opponent's Pokemon with one move. If you're interested in this kind of content, consider leaving a like because it will really help me know if you want to see more of this stuff. And subscribing to my channel would be the icing on the cake. But first, a bit about why Freeze is so cool and why we might want to weaponize it. When a Pokemon is frozen, it is unable to move until it thaws. It can attempt to do this by going for a move, but you only have a 20% chance to thaw. That's 1 in 5 turns you'll actually be able to thaw out. Unlike Sleep, Freeze does not end after a certain number of turns, so your Pokemon might be out of action indefinitely. It's worth noting that ice types are immune to the status and there are a number of ways to heal it. But keeping your opponent frozen indefinitely? That sounds nice. So which moves can freeze? Well, a number of ice type moves obviously, but they all have a low secondary effect chance of only 10%, which is not reliable at all. So let's look at the ways we can use to increase this. First off, Mega Kangaskhan and its Parental Bond ability. Kang has a number of Ice-type moves, the most viable of which being Ice Punch. Parental Bond allows Kang to hit twice, giving it an extra chance at freezing the opponent. So 2 10% chances, right? That's about 20%. It's not exactly 20% though. A quick probability tree shows that it's actually slightly less than 20% at 19%. You've got the initial 10% chance to freeze and 90% chance not to freeze, and then on the second hit of that 90% chance not to freeze, you've got another 10% of the 90% to freeze, so that's actually 9%. You've got 81% chance overall that the opponent is not frozen. So 19%, not that great still. It's still pretty unreliable. Can we do any better than that? Well, there is a bit more of an obvious ability, which is Serene Grace, that increases the freeze chance. This increases the secondary effect chance of any move by 2 times, so you've got a 20% chance to freeze the opponent. So for example, Jirachi's Ice Punch or Chansey's Ice Beam is marginally better than Mega Kangaskhan's Ice Punch because 20% slightly higher than 19%, but it's still pretty rubbish. It's in definitely the same kind of ballpark, so we can't really be relying on that if we want to do it, although it's just worth noting that this is a way of increasing your freeze chance. A way to achieve a similar effect to Serene Grace is to combine the Fire and Water Pledge moves to create a rainbow on the opposing side of the field, which again increases the secondary effect chance of any moves that you use to target the opponent by 2 times. So it's basically exactly the same as the Serene Grace ability, but in this Water Pledge, Fire Pledge combination. Unfortunately, this can't be combined with Serene Grace, so you can't get a 40% chance. This pledge combination can't double Serene Grace again because it's the same effect basically. However, it can be combined with Mega Kangaskhan's Parental Bond. So let's check the probability tree again for the chance. You've got an initial freeze chance of 20%, but then you could get an 80% chance not to freeze on the first hit and a 20% chance to freeze on the second hit, which gives you an overall probability of a 36% freeze chance, which is actually not so awful for such a powerful status. The issue here is that the setup is pretty annoying to pull off. To my estimation, this is the highest freeze chance you can get in a Wi-Fi battle. So if you're looking for an awful gimmick, look no further. It's no joke. This is probably the best way you can try to go about freezing your opponents, and I think it's maybe worth a look if you really are into these kind of weird gimmicks. But that is not all. In game, you can actually increase these odds even further because of the move's Secret Power, which is a 70 base power normal type move with a 30% effect chance that changes depending on your location. In snow or ice, you can actually freeze your opponent. 30% chance is pretty much as good as Mega Kangaskhan's Ice Punch with all of that setup. So that's amazing that this one move, learned by many Pokemon in the Aurus games, can have such a powerful effect. And not only that, but you can increase these odds even further by the Rainbow Pledge or using the Serene Grace ability. It's worth noting that Parental Bond doesn't work with it though, it's only 30% with Parental Bond because the secondary effect weirdly comes independent of the 2 hits, so it's always 30% with Parental Bond. But with Rainbow Pledge or Serene Grace, you're maxing out at a 60% freeze chance, which is crazy. It's really easy to get any Serene Grace Pokemon that can learn Secret Power and then get that insane freeze chance. The main issues here are that it's only on a few certain tiles in each Pokemon game that are very few and far between. And obviously in the same area, if you're in a snowy or icy area and you're encountering Pokemon, the chances are they're going to be ice types, and ice types are immune to the freeze status anyway, so it's unlikely that this will ever actually come into effect or be useful. But it's just a little bit of trivia worth noting that there are ways you can get a 60% freeze chance in the game. It's also worth noting because in any future games, if the Wi-Fi settings change and you can have different secret powers in Wi-Fi battles, then this could well be an annoying strategy to watch out for. And I'm actually all for changing the settings of Wi-Fi battles. I think it's so boring that in the Pokemon games you've got just this one stale Wi-Fi background. I really think that they should change it up and you can customize it or, you know, use the one you want. But if that comes at the expense of having a 60% freeze chance, that's a bit scary. So that concludes this little ice-capade. I hope you learned something that in Wi-Fi battles you can actually get a 36% chance to freeze your opponent, and in game you can get even higher. But if you already knew all of that, I hope you were at least sufficiently entertained. If you did enjoy this video, please consider leaving a like. But that's all for today. All that's left to be said is I've been Foo, you've been Thorsome, and hopefully see you next time. Goodbye.